Hey Jeff, thanks for joining me.
Hey, Steve.
Hey, we are talking about urban doom loops and specifically about how they're likely being exaggerated. We've seen a lot of articles, real estate articles, talking about remote work and the death of office, and are we going to kind of repeat what we saw in the 20th century, where the cities empty out and there's this flight to the suburbs, and it makes for good copy, it makes for entertaining reading. But I think there's a really, really strong argument here that, it's really exaggerated, and we're not likely to see anything like that. So we've definitely seen, you and I both know some urban core centers, particularly some high density office sectors, run into some problems. But what's often neglected in these articles is a trend we've talked about, and that's the move towards more mixed use,
Yeah.
whether that's in urban areas or outside urban areas. That mixed use philosophy really seems to be what's, driving things rather than any move out of the city. It's more of a move out of single use areas.
Yeah.
Um, and we can go into some of this, but want to get a little bit your thoughts on how that whole urban doom loop, the emptying out of the city, the death of office and the death of urban cores is really kind of exaggerated.
Yeah. I mean, I think in reality, some of this is you're paying for clicks, or at least media is paying for clicks to get people to read their stuff so they can advertise to them. And you got to do that by creating an article that forces people or intrigues them enough to want to click it. I think the reality of this is that the mixed use properties do well in kind of these urban areas where you get single use properties that can be repurposed or converted into something else, where you've got a mixed use where it's a live work and play with gyms and bars and other stuff attached to them, hotels, restaurants, all sorts of stuff. And I think the reality is people are just going to have to realize um, they're going to have to get creative with how they're investing in their real estate.
Yeah, I think this is one you can just do your eyeball test for most of us. You can go outside and look at those areas that are mixed use. Look at those areas that have restaurants and some office, or, instead of a traditional mall, maybe it's got a hotel there. It's got some, like, often times high-end shopping. Maybe your strip mall now has some healthcare outlets in it and stuff. And maybe it has some office right next door in easy walking distance. You can just kind of, I think most of us can take the eyeball test, walk around and see these mixed use areas, and you see good foot traffic. You see people there. And then when we go out and we look at the areas that are empty, yeah, there are some cities where it's pretty much just an office district that doesn't have that kind of mixed use vibe going on, that has a real problem. But this isn't, what we're seeing is not an emptying out of cities.
Right.
What we're seeing is a real drive towards mixed use. And yeah, there's a legitimate problem for areas that are going to have a hard time converting to mixed use, where they've got a
Well,
lot of office and it's hard to convert. But that's not the same thing as the city's dying.
yeah. Well, I mean, I think you got to add to it. I also don't want to imply that somehow office is dead, but having a space where you've got 600,000 square feet of pure office, and you're looking for single tenant occupancy, or just three or four tenants to occupy, that's going to be a really difficult task, and buildings are gonna get hurt by that. But smaller buildings still need still get some occupancy that is affordable, where some of those other ones can't and don't have the businesses, or large enough businesses to support what they need for those large spaces.
Yeah, I think there's some big trends in real estate, and we could separately go through these. But the trend towards mixed use is one of the biggest. The housing shortage and the opportunities that's creating in multifamily is another big one. I think also you're seeing some reshoring of manufacturing that has
Yeah.
implications, as well as the digitalization of the economy and data center. There's a few big trends, but I'd say in general, you want these trends, you want the wind at your back instead of being fighting them. And if you're going to, you know, dip your toe into, say, office product in a downtown that isn't mixed use, is really suffering, has high vacancy, you better damn well get a value on it, because you're going against the trend. You better get the right pricing for that. In
For sure.
general, we're looking more at playing the trends, and
Yeah.
so that might be taking advantage of the housing shortage. in select multifam opportunities, or that may, when it comes to this topic, be really looking at, communities that have embraced this mixed use philosophy. Any closing thoughts you have?
Yeah, I mean, in reality, if you kind of think about like New York City, New York City is really just a big name for a bunch of neighborhoods that are all kind of combined together, and and those areas have offices, they have mixed use properties, they have bodegas, they have shopping, they have restaurants, bars, everything, and that are inside these properties. Because quite frankly, there's nowhere else for them to really go because there's enough real estate for them to build new stuff. I mean, I think that's kind of the point. It's being creative about your real estate and realizing what you have and how to do it. And I think a lot of the mixed use properties, I think you'll even find in even some of the hotter markets, some of those areas are getting creative with how how they fill up their buildings and the occupants they have too. So so yeah, I mean, I think you're right. And it looks to some of these areas like they're gonna have to get creative and find good mixed use opportunities.
Great. Appreciate the insights. Hey, if you enjoyed this, give us a thumbs up, click subscribe if you haven't, and jump over to our website, selectfincap.com, register to hear about any investments we're doing around any of these themes. Thanks a lot, Jeff.
Thanks, Steve.